What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another late night in the BrewLab with me, Lone Fox, your brewmaster-in-chief. And tonight, in the BrewLab, I'm coming at you with another episode of a spoiler talk. And yeah, we've got quite a bit to get through, so I should probably just dive right into it without too much blabbing. But I just wanted to mention this terrible lighting. Yesterday we had the light from above, shining, glinting, bold patch lighting. I'm in the same exact room, but I've gone for something a little bit different. I personally prefer this a lot. It's a little bit more shadowy, a little bit more ominous, a little bit more brooding. And yeah, so anyway, I hope you enjoy it more than that glary light from yesterday. So we will just jump right in where we left off at the end of the previous episode of Spoiler Talk, which was on the Thopter mechanic. So it appears as though, as on that day, we got one more instant. Machine over Matter. 2-mana instant in blue. The spell costs 1 less to cast if you control an artifact creature. So, you know, in the coming standard, there's going to be lots of them. Therefore, this will, more often than not, if you're putting it in your deck, it's probably because you want to get the cost reduction, so you'll be spending 1 blue most of the time for this. And you return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So it's like a Fading Hope without the scry. Fail. Then we skip by some commander stuff, and we go straight into the next. Ooh, we've got quite a bit to get through, but not so much. And also just a bit of nonsense, but also quite a bit of rares and mythics that I really want to go over. So, well, we won't go too quick. Stop and pause. Look at the ones that matter. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of these Japanese or, you know, Asian languages that I can't read, so we'll have to tab into those. But at first, here we have a 1-mana human druid. Uncommon. Alloy Animist. Until end of turn, target non-creature artifact you control becomes a 4/4 for 3 mana. It's honestly not terrible. That's honestly not terrible. It just has to be like a very specifically good, like, green-based artifact deck. Otherwise, there's better things to be playing on turn 1 than a 1/1 for 1 that in 2 more turns might turn on an artifact. But still, not terrible. Like, seems just about right as far as like casting cost, rarity and everything. Just I don't think it's, I mean, obviously for an uncommon it does what it can. But next up we've got the art on these big guys. Look just freaking amazing. The Steel Seraph. So it's one of these prototypes. This is the rare one for the white, you know, because it's the prototype cost is in white, so you can pay 1 and 2 planes and you get a 3/3. But the cool thing about this one is that at the beginning of your combat on your turn, you choose flying, vigilance, or lifelink. Target creature you control gains that ability until end of turn. Of course, you can target the Steel Seraph itself, but you can't, you know, it doesn't have haste. So the turn it enters the battlefield, most of the time it just sits there. But 3 mana for a 3/3 flyer, I think is pretty freaking sweet, considering that you also get all of this extra text. And then, you know, whatever other thing you have on the battlefield that you want to give flying to, lifelink to, vigilance to, I think that's like 3 of my favorite keyword abilities. So yeah, I'm just really, really happy with this card, man. I cannot wait to play it. Can be flickered, you know, brought back to the battlefield on turn 4 instead of waiting until turn 6. You can have a 5/4 that does the same. You can also reanimate it and do all sorts of other unearth things with Mishra and stuff. But in just face value, without like discussing where it, you know, which decks it'll fit into and whatnot, it's just a good card. Period. Then I am fairly certain that it's going to find a really good home. And I'm, for one, I'm going to be jamming this into my Selesnya Artifacts Matters deck ASAP. Next up, we've got the Platoon Dispensary. Okay, another one in white. So it also has Unearth. Might this be the white Mythic Unearth card? We'll have to find out. Maybe we'll get some more. But so far as I've seen, there's like been a common and uncommon, a rare and a mythic for Unearth in each color. And the same goes for Prototype. So I think probably that'll be the way. That this might be the only mythic with Unearth in white. Very good one. I like this one. So at the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more other creatures, draw a card. So it is a 4/6. Just, you know, very, very good blocker. And yeah, difficult to remove. Sheoldred's a 4/5, and that's like been really hard to remove. So you can imagine how this can just, you know, be even harder to do so. And of course you can unearth it. Oh no, okay, so when it unearths, it gains haste and exile it. Okay, so never mind. I guess this isn't a very good unearthed target. Sure, you can swing for 4, and if you control 2 or more other creatures at the beginning of that end step, you draw a card. Feels kind of blitzy. Same cost as blitzing in an underdog. In that case, it's not terrible. But the activated ability is not bad either. You can pay 4 and create a colorless soldier artifact creature token. Of course, you can use your power stones to do this for the majority of this, because 3 of it is colorless, and it doesn't require you to tap it. So, you know, end of the opponent's turn, all that mana you have sitting around that you don't know what to do with, you could potentially make 1, 2, whatever, soldier artifacts. So, you know, lots of important things there. Soldier artifact token. I think this might end up seeing like a 2 of in some sort of like artifact soldiers deck. And I've seen some hints at something just like that on the way. So stay tuned for that. Looking very nice. I personally enjoy that type of design space. Then we've got Union of the Third Path. Draw a card, then you gain life equal to the number of cards in your hand. Okay. Thinking the last time we had an instant speed thing that drew a card in white. Don't we still have Revitalize? No, I think it's rotated. But yeah, basically like a slightly more expensive Revitalize that has a slightly bigger upside. I think Revitalize will just gain 2 life, draw a card, period. This is, you know, potentially draw a card, gain 7 or something. So there's a little bit higher of a ceiling. But that 1 extra mana makes a huge difference, obviously. So I don't know. Maybe some life gain decks in unranked will want to run these, but probably won't see much standard play in any sort of competitive situation or on the ladder. Then we've got the Zephyr Sentinel, and this is interesting. Blue soldier with flash. Is the best home for soldier tribal going forward going to be some kind of an Azorius tempo deck? Cannot wait to find out. Really starting to enjoy playing tempo decks more and more. So it was never really my thing, and I realized it's probably because it was very difficult. But as I play it more and more, I'm enjoying the challenge of playing tempo decks and how hard it is to win with them. And, you know, it's this really nice fusion between aggro and control that I kind of, I'm enjoying more and more. But anyway, this one is a 2/1 with flying. When it ATBs, you return up to 1 other target creature you control to its owner's hand. If it was a soldier, you put a 1/1 counter on it. So you may have many little 1/1 soldiers lying around that you don't mind bouncing to your own hand. Because it's always target creature you control. You're not bouncing anything the opponent controls. So you're always going to be bouncing something unless you don't own anything. Doesn't even say may. Okay, so in that case, you would kind of just be returning it. Oh no, one other. Okay, so if there's nothing on the battlefield, you can just play this for 2 mana as a 2/1 flyer, which is already with flash, you know, pretty decent. But then, you know, if you bounce a soldier token, then you can put a +1/+1 counter on it, then you're getting a 2 mana 3/2 flash flying. Suddenly, you know, there's the resolute reinforcements that we just got. That's also got flash and is in white and makes 2 soldiers. Soldier tempo. Azorius tempo soldiers. Cannot wait to try brew that up. Super excited. Next up, we got Gixian Puppeteer. 4 mana, 3 and a black for a Phyrexian Warlock. Comes into play as a 4/3 when you draw your second card each turn. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Oh, so, you know, being incentivized to draw more than 1 card each turn is, I mean, I don't need much incentive to do that. It's something that I like to do regardless. So if on top of that, I gain 2 and the opponent loses 2, and it's on the same slot as Sheoldred, so maybe this will take over from Sorin the Mirthless. Because when it dies, you return another target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I think that's really good. So even if they kill it when it enters the battlefield, straight away that turn, you still get value, which is kind of the threshold for standard playable cards. Like, it's really tough to play anything right now in standard that just enters the battlefield and does nothing until the next turn. You need to get immediate value, some kind of 2-for-1 something. And, you know, I guess if you have 6 mana open, just a random example, you cast this for 4, the opponent tries to target it, his removal spell is on the stack. You have a draw spell for 2 mana, let's say, in your hand. Instant speed. Something like Deadly Dispute, for example, just for the sake of the example. So you still get to gain the 2 life and drain the opponent, which is pretty cool. And then you return your Graveyard Trespasser to the battlefield once it gets removed. It's kind of like a ward. It might as well just say ward, return target creature with mana value 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. I think that's really nice. The fact that it's 4, though, it's competing with Sheoldred and Sorin in the black deck. It's competing with, you know, Wandering Emperor in the Orzhov deck, and all Edgar Markov, etc. The 4-drop in like white and black are very contested. So we'll have to see if this ends up making the cut in any brew. But I have seen in Twitter today, we'll get to them, other cards that care about this if you've drawn your second card each turn thing. So maybe once they all get together and get brewing, maybe there's something more to this. We'll have to wait and see. Cool art. Next up, another Asian card. Great Desert Surveyor. For 5 mana, you get a human artificer that's a 3/2, and when it ETBs, you create a tap Power Stone token for each other creature you control. Woo-hoo-hoo. Okay, so this is cool. I mean, obviously you can see why, right? You play this on turn 5, maybe a turn earlier if you've got some ramp of some sort, and you know, you've been flashing in soldier dudes and making soldiers, beg your pardon, and you've got a bunch of soldiers or whatever, creature tokens of some shape or form, and then you just get like 5 or 4 or 5 tapped Power Stone tokens, because of course it's each other creature, so it doesn't count itself. Still, the very next turn you're almost guaranteed to be able to play like one of those crazy 10 mana artifacts from this set. So might actually see some play. I'll definitely try it out. You'll have to tune in. Next up, we got the Fauna Shaman. Fauna Shaman. Fauna Shaman? Everybody pronounces this one differently. I say shaman, 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 shaman. Shaman. 2 mana, 2/2. Elf. Finally. Is that like the first elf? I was expecting more elves, honestly. Pay 1 green, tap it, discard a creature card. Any creature. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Yes, that is a very strong thing. It's like a kind of like a tutor for creatures in green. I can see why that's a very strong thing. I just honestly don't know what I'm going to be doing with that right now. Because it's into your hand, then you got to wait till the next turn. I mean, it's so cheap. Just 1 green. Discard something useless. Take your Titan of Industry into your hand. So if you've got 8 mana, you can also then cast your Titan straight away that turn. I guess. I just don't know how to break it right now off the top of my head. This text box seems pretty strong. Then we've got the Junkyard Genius. 3 mana, 2/2. 1 and a Rakdos for a Human Artificer. When the ETBs create a tap Power Stone token. We're going to see that a lot. And then you can pay 1 and a Rakdos to sack another creature or artifact. So potentially even just that Power Stone token you just made when it ETB'd. And then until end of turn, another creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains Menace and Haste. Interesting. Little bit weak. 3 mana, 2/2. Meh. They couldn't give you a 3 mana. Why? I mean, why couldn't they? I guess that just would have been a rare. Because, you know, so I'm just thinking like, I don't know, Graveyard Trespasser. 3 mana, 3/3. ETBs exile the thing from an opponent's graveyard and gains you a life. That's ridiculous. It's one of the most played cards in Standard. This just makes a tapped Power Stone token. And just because of that disparity in the ETBs, like immediate value, they had to make this a 2/2 and uncommon to justify it. I don't imagine if it was just like a 3/3 or a 2/4 that did the same thing. Suddenly it's a lot different. But anyway, still a sweet signpost uncommon for this Rakdos sacrifice your artifacts kind of a deck. Next up, we got the Deathbloom Ritualist, another elf. At 5 mana in Golgari colors, you can tap it to add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Okay, that's cool. You know, Golgari is gonna want to be doing that type of thing. It's the one way of playing Golgari that I almost never play. But you know, self-mill, reanimation, graveyard shenanigans, sticky fingers, Goif dude, maybe an insult high even. You could play this like a 2/of or something, and suddenly you've got this creature that can, you know, add a lot of mana to the board. I just, again, kind of like with the Junkyard Genius, with the Fauna Shaman, I don't quite see where I would slot it into anything that's existing today. Maybe there'll be a deck that is just desperate for a Deathbloom Ritualist. Then we got the Ekverkung der Walder. Der Wälder? Erwekung der Wälder. Sorry, German friends and followers, I do not mean to butcher your language like that, but it is one of the languages that I just have the most freaking trouble with. Like, Awake in the Woods is what? Something? Like, I can't even begin. But this makes so it's 2 green and an X. You create X 1/1 green forest dryad land creature tokens. They're affected by summoning sickness. You can't tap them for mana. That doesn't. Oh, that would actually matter a lot. So they come into play. They're still lands. It doesn't say. Usually when it's like. I don't know, but I have a chance, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Tatiana. Man, can you still tap these green forest dryad land creature tokens? Doesn't say you can tap to add a mana of any color. So I guess you're just making a bunch of 1/1s. And why do they need to put land creature tokens there? Please let me know in the comments. If it is that you can actually then next turn use those lands to tap and add mana, then we're onto something. Then we're definitely onto something. Next up, we got Draconic Destiny. Ooh, I've seen this one on Twitter today. This is a goodie. I can see why this is mythic. Okay, you can enchant a creature for 3 mana. It gets +1/+1 and has flying and haste. And pay 1, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It's a dragon in addition to its other types, if that matters. And then when an enchanted creature dies, you return Draconic Destiny to your hand. Uh-huh. Okay. Very nice. I like a lot. Well, what would I do with this? I mean, just, I don't know. Off the top of my head right now. Play this on turn 3? No. Play this on turn 5? Yeah. You get your Thundering Raiju down, you swing in, the opponent puts down some blockers or something, doesn't have removal for your Thundering Raiju. Next turn, you just put this on your Raiju. Because it's not like an equipment that sits on the battlefield and then you just pay the 1 and equip it or something like that. You have to play the thing, maybe 4-drop or something, and then still have 3 mana to enchant it to give it haste. You know, the thing that you played, you also want to give it haste. And you want it to be a fairly decent body so that it actually, you know, does something. If it's just like a 2-drop that's a 2/2, and you give it +1/+1, sure. Flying, haste. So it's a 3/3 haste, flying. And, you know, maybe the next turn you can dump some mana into it and make the power bigger with this little activated ability. But otherwise, yeah. I mean, I think it's fair. It would just be a little bit too busted if it was like 2 mana. So you can play your like really good 3-drop on turn 5 and play this. I can see where they were going. Like they had to balance it out probably, and like, but a 3 mana just makes it like a perfectly fair and good and balanced card. I'm not sure what creature on your curve you want to be enchanting with this aura and in which deck. But it is a very strong card. And one that I cannot wait to try and break and find a good home for, because it always just goes back to your hand. Next turn, you just play something else. Draconic Destiny gives it haste, +1/+1, boo-boo, flying. You know, I can really see this putting in some work. In probably RDW or some, maybe Boros even might enjoy like 1 or 2 copies of this. Something like, kind of like Angel Fire Ignition, that also like gives the thing haste straight away, but you need to like have 6 mana if you want to haste your 3-drop or something like that. You see where I'm going. Next up, we got the Bestendiger. Again, with this A with the 2 dots. I believe that is pronounced in German, but I could be wrong. Persistent Behemoth. Artifact creature Beast. You may play lands from your graveyard. Static ability. Okay, so this is the rare green unearthed one. It's a 2/7 for 5. So just ridiculous blocker. And it just you can play lands from your graveyard. Du kannst Länder aus deinem Friedhof spielen. God, that sounds so funny. I'm sorry, German friends. I love you to pieces. Your language is hilarious. Du kannst Länder aus deinem Friedhof spielen. You may play land cards. Friedhof is graveyard? Friedhof? Spielen, we all know Spielen. Alright, nice one. I don't know. I guess maybe with the new meld green card, graveyards and lands matter decks coming together with also Ren and 7, I can see something. I just don't know yet. But 7 toughness, worth mentioning. Very cheap. Unearth for 2 green, also worth mentioning. Maybe you've put a bunch of land. I don't know. You can't bring all your lands to the battlefield at once. So if this would be... doesn't have an ETB trigger. So, you know, you unearth it for 2, and you swing with a 2/7, and then it gets exiled at the end of the next turn. So whatever value you're getting from unearthing this is that, ooh, quick, I can play some lands from my graveyard while this is happening. But, you know, you can't play some lands. You just play one of your lands from your graveyard. Woo! And swing for 2. Meh. Probably the one of these that I'm the least impressed by so far. Next up, we got Gruesome Realization. 3 mana, sorcery speed, choose 1. Draw 2 cards, you lose 2 life. Cool. Creatures your opponent controls get -1/-1 until end of turn. So just like a... just a worse miasma. No, what's it called? Something miasma that I was playing the other day in the Golgari deck. With the kicker for 4, but 3 mana, and it's -2/-2. Sure, it's more versatile, but sorcery speed. Lose 2 life. -1/-1. Just a little bit not strong enough to see much play. I don't think there's better options than this. Currently in standard, actually. Next up. Ooh, another flashy soldier. That's another flashy soldier, mate. But it's a common one too, with a very expensive activation cost. Maybe. 1/2 flying. Another flyer. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So you're using your power stones or what have you, or just a bit of a mixture of the two. Mana, normal mana generated from lands. And you get potentially a 3. Okay, you can do this. It's not a tap ability, so if you got 10 mana, you can do a +2/+2. Woohoo! But still. 1/2 flash flying. It's not terrible, and it's a soldier and a human. Might see some sparing play and some we'll definitely wedge this into like a soldier's budget brew in the coming weeks. Next up, we got the black rare unearth by the looks of it. Transmutado Laminacoite. Is this? Evolva transmutado Laminacoite de su cimitero para el campo de batalla. El marchador. Is that Spanish? Yeah, that's Spanish. I'm like 90% sure that that's Spanish, but it could be Portuguese. Blade Whip Transmigrant. 2 mana, zombie. Pay freaking 6 though. Can return it from the graveyard to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. This ability costs 4 less to activate if an opponent controls 4 or more non-basic lands. So I guess good against maybe sideboarding, against domain control. But the majority of the decks that you play against on a daily basis won't have 4 or more non-basic lands. Oh, it doesn't have to be types. Oh, wow, okay, I completely misread that. So if the opponent has, 2 pain lands, 1 triome, and a chill land, all not basics, basically, then it'll cost 4 less to cast. And then it's only 2 black. I can see this happening more often than not now. That makes a lot more sense. 4 or more non-basics. It's non-block, can't block, so you're incentivized to just attack with it. And when you unearth it, it becomes a 4/2 with haste, of course. Hey, that's not terrible. That's not terrible. I wonder. I've been talking a lot about automaton decks and artifacts matters aggro in various colors. Will this make the cut in like a automaton black X something artifacts matter aggro deck of some kind? Probably 2 colors, you know, maybe Dimir or whatever. Can't wait to find out, but I'm not sure it will. Really incredible artwork on it, just by the way. Next up, we got a 4-mana. 4-mana uncommon and aura. Okay, it gives a creature +1/+0, and whenever it attacks, draw a card. Meh. And next up, we're getting to the end of November 1st. We've got the Evangel of Synthesis. Talking about Dimir. 2-mana, 2/3, Phyrexian Human Cleric. Very nice types there. When ETBs draw a card, then discard a card. Also very nice. And as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards... Okay, so here we go. Reconnecting in with this Phyrexian Warlock here. Another card that cares about whether you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn. If you have, then it gets +1/+0 and has menace. Cool. Cool. Not bad at all. 2-mana, 2/3 is already pretty okay. That you know, gets you to filter the top of your library. You know, you can discard something junk, get another card. And then potentially be a 3/3 menace, you know, depending on the turns where you draw an extra card. Then I can see that this actually might be pretty decent. Mill 5 cards, Wasteful Harvest. Mill 5 cards. You may put a permanent card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. Okay, so this is the type of thing you do during your opponent's turn. Obviously, instant speed really hammers that home. Not the kind of thing you'll be doing during your turn most of the time, I don't think. Then we've also got, like, I don't know, mulch. There's other things right now in standard. If you want to, like, put things in the yard and bring back some other stuff, you know, you'll probably be putting a land into your hand from those 5 permanents and leaving the creatures because you want to reanimate them, or they're all things with unearth or whatever. So might end up being a player, but right now I think there's already a couple of other things that do this exact same thing, except for less. And yeah, that's all I have to say about Wasteful Harvest. Next up, we got the Gnawing Vermin. 1-mana, 1/1 rat. When it ETBs, target player mills 2 cards. When it dies, target creature you don't control gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Haha! Talia is not gonna like this. Reminds me of Shambling Ghast, Shambly Boy. This definitely reminds me of Shambly Boy. You know, the second part of the text box. Then this bit, it doesn't make you a treasure, obviously, but this one mills 2 cards. So I guess you're targeting yourself in a self-mill deck. Or you know, maybe the opponent only has 2 cards left and you mill them and you win. That's actually not terrible. I wonder if there's a deck that reminds us of something like Mono Black before rotation with Deadly Dispute, Shambling Ghast. We've already got the Reckoner's Bargain and other cards like that allow you to sack a creature, draw 2, make a Power Stone, or, you know, whatever the added little bonuses. But there's not such good fodder like we used to have. You know, Shambling Ghast and Eye Twitch are gone. We don't quite have anything just like it in Mono Black right now that you kind of want to sacrifice for whatever reason. This one is just also nice as a blocker against, again, something like Talia. Against Mono White on the play, you play this on turn 1, they play Talia on turn 2. They can't start swinging straight away. because you're gonna get rid of the Italia, and that's for me makes it probably the reason why it's uncommon. Really not a terrible little uncommon rat there. Last but not least, as far as November 1st, we have Hero of the Dunes. When it enters the battlefield, return target artifact or creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. A 5 mana for an Orzhov human soldier. ETBs bring back a 3-drop. Creatures you control with mana value 3 or less get +1/+0. Okay. I wish it was 4 mana. Is this like deceptively like really good? It's like an Anthem effect, a reanimation spell, and the body with relevant creature types at the right cost for a reanimation spell. Yes, you're not going to be reanimating your Titan of Industry. In a deck that isn't even playing Titan of Industry, like the recent Human Aristocrats brew that I put up. Might be a nice way to just bring something back, you know? Something with an ETB trigger, like your Anointed Peacekeeper, who happens to be a human. And then, you know, it's now a 4/3 instead of a 3/3. That's actually not too shabby, Nige. We'll have to see. Okay, and that's it for November 1st. We don't have too much to get through, thankfully. I'm getting rather parched. I do need to get recording a deck tech. So, let's get right into it. Argivian Avenger, 6 mana, 5/5 shapeshifter. Until end of turn, Argivian Avenger gets -1/-1 and gains your choice of Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, or Haste. Woo! I like that. I like that a lot. The more of these, like, seem terrible in a non-Power Stone format, overpriced, do kind of nothing artifacts, but that have big chunky bodies and that, you know, do stuff if you dump mana into it or whatever, are making me excited, because it's, I don't know, I like that kind of magic, where you like find ways to get the mana, and then, you know, it's what would usually be unplayable 6 mana 5/5 with nothing. But then, to make it better, they had to give it -1/-1, which I find quite nice. The design, at least. You pay 1. You can, of course, do this multiple times. So you could, like, pay 3 and give it, or you could pay 4 and give it Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, and Haste. Not that you need to, but you could reanimate this on the cheap, and there'll be ways to do this. Trust me on this. I think we've already even gone through a few things. Even just I think the rare Mishra said all artifacts get unearthed 3 or something. So you just unearth this on turn 3 and on turn 4 and pay 1 and give it haste, and it's a 4/4 haste. But the fact that it's Flying, Death Touch, Vigilance, like, very versatile. I like that. I like that. If they didn't have the -1/-1, it would be rare, probably. That's why it's uncommon. Just to make it a little bit more fair. Otherwise, it would probably be a little bit too busted. Next up, a Goblin. Again, like, I was a little bit disappointed so far. I mean, there's still quite a bit of spoilers to go, but not too many Elves, not too many Goblins. And those are 2 of the Lords that we got in Dominaria United that I was the most excited about. And it does appear as though Soldiers are getting the most out of this next set. But I may be wrong. But here's our first little Goblin guy. Finally, like a 1-drop that seems fairly playable. 1 mana, 1/2. It's better than 1/1. And it gets +2/+0 and has Menace as long as you sacrifice the permanent this turn. So maybe in some Rakdos, or I don't know. I really don't know. Sacrifice an artifact. Yeah, maybe in your Oni Cult Anvil deck. sack your little blood token or whatever, and it give this guy +2/+0. It becomes a 3/2 menace. It's not bad. It's not bad. Hopefully there's something a bit better before the set spoilers have completely finished. Next up, we got Power Plant Worker. So here we have some assembly workers. Remember the land we got? The creature land that we got in the set? Way back when? We're saying you can give assembly workers. So we knew that there'd be others. This isn't even the first one that I've gone over since then. It's not just the land itself that becomes an assembly worker and you can grow. You can also use it for other assembly workers that you have on the battlefield. In this case, it's a 5-mana 4/4 that you can pay 3 mana to give +2/+2 until end of turn. And if you control a creature named Mine Worker and Tower Worker, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Power Plant Worker instead. Okay. I can see, like, people managing to get, like, 2 of each in a draft game and being super stoked. But this will not see any standard play. Next up, we got Hôtel des Transfigurantes. So French. This one I can translate without alt-tabbing. 3 mana, 1 black, sacrifice a creature, add 3 colorless. 2 mana, tap it, sacrifice a creature, create a token creature, artifact, 3/3, uncolored zombie. Okay, so French is always backwards as far as English is concerned, so it's isn't it funny how they order the... So create a token of creature artifact. 3/3 uncolored zombie. Where we would say create a 3/3 colorless zombie creature artifact creature token. Anyway. Activate only when you can activate a sorcery. So that's actually not bad. Pay 1 black, tap it, sacrifice a creature, add 3 colorless. That's probably pretty good. I've been, like, focusing my brain power a lot on the Selesnya artifacts deck. I've already been, like, theory crafting like crazy on Selesnya, and I've done a Dimir one and things, but I haven't looked at the black Rakdos. You know, the one where you probably want to be putting Mishra into. Is this gonna be a player? Create a 3/3 colorless zombie. Paying 2. Sacrifice a creature. Make a zombie. Maybe in your Ratadrabic. You know, the thing you sacrifice is one of your legendaries. You get it back anyway. You get 3 colorless to play with. Or, again, sacrifice one of your legendaries. You get it back as a Ratadrabic. You get a 3/3 zombie, which gets vigilance because of Ratadrabic, and you get back the thing you sacrificed. Probably playable. Let's see. This one I've seen a bit of debate all over the interwebs. Levitating statue. People saying, like, oh, you know, just jam this into your control deck and winning. And I kind of think I agree. Just an artifact with flying, but it's not a creature, right? So then, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. You just put it there on turn 2. If you don't have a counter spell, you know, you don't have your make disappear or whatever. I'm talking, you know, being from a control deck standpoint. Turn 3, you counter a spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Turn 4, you remove something. Turn 5, you sweep the board, whatever. You know, you're doing your control deck thing and you're playing non-creatures, enchantments, planeswalkers, what have you. Every time you do so, tick, 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 slowly but surely, your little statue is creeping. Then at some point in the game, you got like a 5/5, a 6/6. You just pay 2 colorless. Becomes a 1/1 construct artifact creature until end of turn. So it's 1/1 plus the counters you've got on it. So could be pretty decent. Opponent taps out, you've got 2 mana open, you just pay 2, make it into a little flyer, swing in. I think that's pretty damn nice. Feels very creature landish. Something like Crawling Barrens. No? Next up, we got Mass Production. Pay 5 mana, 6 mana. For sorcery speed, make 4 1/1s. Mm, 6 mana? Is there something that really cares that much about having that many tokens on the battlefield other than, like, I don't know, rabble rousing? There are artifacts and there's soldiers. There's gonna be some deck that cares about that, but 6 mana? Nah. I don't know, mate. I don't know. Don't think it'll see too much play. Next up, we got Arms Race. 3 and a red for an enchantment. Lots of red enchantments. At 4 mana again. You may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. Just boom. Okay. That is good. I'm thinking, is that 4 mana uncounterable green werewolf. The Piper something. Night Pack Piper. I believe that's the name. Something Piper. Where you can pay 2, I think it is, and you can just put a creature onto the battlefield. Play it on turn 4. Turn 5, you put a Titan of Industry into play for 2 mana. This is, you can see why I'm making the comparison. This is 4 mana, but you just put an artifact onto the battlefield. There are some artifacts that, you know, cost 10 mana. These massive robot things. That artifact will also gain haste until the end of turn. Sure, you have to sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step, but that might not be such a problem, because you can just put it again into play the next turn for 3 mana. You see where I'm going? It doesn't say you have to exile it or anything like that. It'll just go back into your graveyard. Next turn you pay 4 mana, bring it back again. If it's an artifact creature. It can also be that there's some like overpowered, we've seen a blue one already, but like some crazy overpowered non-creature artifacts that just have like cool static effects or ETBs or whatever that you can just bring onto the battlefield for 4 mana. That may cost you a lot more than that. So this might be a way of, like, on turn 5, dropping the most busted, biggest artifact in the game without, you know, doing much. So I can see actually this seeing some significant play. I can tell you already that I'm going to be playing with this card. Yeah. There's like that 9-10 mana red, you know, Unearth prototype one as well. Is like 8 mana, I think, or something. Just way too expensive to play on curve normally. So there's going to be all sorts of ways of getting them in sooner. You know, some cards that give all your artifacts Unearth, like the Mishra, or just a normal reanimation spell, or what have you. Or, you know, fight rigging. Something that costs 10 mana, you get it done on turn 4 with your whatever. There's ways of cheating things into play. This is going to be one of them, and I think because of that, it will see some definite play. Next up, okay, another Asian card that we need to zoom in. I'll tab for. Fateful Cooperation. This one is weird. I saw this on Twitter. 3 in a black. Target opponent gains control over target artifact you control. So you're giving your opponent one of your artifacts, and then you draw cards equal to its mana value. Is there like anything that's like negative to control of an artifact? Something that if the opponent gets it, you're like, yay. Here, take my thing that I don't want. Yeah, what is the lose the game artifact? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the comment sections are the most toxic places in the world. But yeah, I don't know. Meh. I don't see anything yet with that. Maybe there's something that you really want to hand over, or something that you don't really care if you hand over, but you still get to draw a few cards. But otherwise, I don't see it. Next up, we got Autonomous Assembler. 5 mana for a 4/5. This is the prototype rare in the cycle in the white colors. You can pay 2 mana. 1 and a white for a 2/2. It's got Vigilance. You pay 1, tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on target assembly worker you control. I like that. I like that a lot. Talking about assembly workers, there's going to be a little assembly workers deck, which I'm really excited to test. Then you can, later on in the game, play it for 5 mana, you get a 4/5, which does the same thing. No ETB triggers. The activation cost here is very low. It is a tap thing. So, you can only do it once a turn, but it's not legendary, so you can have multiples of these on the turn. You can also, like, I don't know, tap it, give something +1/+1, and then untap it with Teferi, the 4 mana Azorius Teferi, tap it again, because you're also untapping a land with Teferi, so you use that same land that you paid the first time, you pay it again, give something else +1/+1. It's not terrible. Don't think I'm very excited about that, though. Let's see if assembly workers are good. This might be the rare I'm the least hyped about so far today. Next up, there's been a lot of German ones as well. Okay, Eisenmagen Brech. Eisenmagen Brech Machine. Brech Machine. Okay, what is that in English? The Iron Claw Crusher. That's a great name. 7 mana for a 4/6. Whenever it attacks, target attacking creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is Iron Claw. Wow. Doesn't even say other creature, so you can target it, so you can give it like +4/+0 when it attacks. I like that it's always got the chunkier booty, so even when you're prototyping it for 4 mana, you can still attack with it and give 2 power to something else. Or again, making it a 4/5 for 4. Just a little bit weak otherwise. Give it. There we go. There we go, Juan Pablo. You took the words from my mouth. Yeah. If it had trample, it would obviously be a lot better, but it's uncommon, so fine. Next up. Ooh. What? Dinosaure et bête. No, that's French. Yeah, okay. Piétinement? Piétinement? Is that haste? Is that haste? Trample. Obviously. Piétinement. Okay, yeah. Pied is like feet. So, yeah, trample. Players can't gain life. 4/3 for 3 with trample. Players can't gain life. Hey. Sideboard against life gain decks if they become a thing. I don't know. Probably not. Meh. Not too exciting. Cool art. Nice name. Giant Slagmore. The slag. But yeah, these like thing can't gain life type cards haven't needed to be in standard yet. Let's see if there's like this ridiculous life gain deck. Then these types of cards will, of which there's already like 2. There's a black one and a red one in standard right now. One is a red burn spell, and one is the black knight that we got in Dominaria Ignited. So we've got stuff that says that. So then really, it's just a 3-mana 4/3 trample. Yeah. Okay, again French. I can translate. This one, 7 mana for sorcery speed. 7 mana. Every player reveals a number of cards from the top of their library equal to the number of permanents of the non-land permanents they control. So let's say, whatever, you have 5 non-land permanents in control. Both you and your opponent reveal that many cards from the top of your library. You put all the cards that are revealed this way on the battlefield. Each player is that badly worded? My French is good, man. Qu'il a révélé. So, I mean, okay, let's just tab into it and see how the English translation. But to me, that seems like you both have to do it. Then each player reveals cards from the top of their library equal to the number of non-land permanents they control. Then put all permanents revealed this way onto the battlefield. Yeah. Okay. That's okay. That's freaking busted. What's the rest? I guess it's the non-permanents. Your sorceries and instants and stuff, but everything else goes onto the battlefield, both from your side of the... Wow. 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 Say you have, turn 7. You're bound to have 3, 4, 5 non-land permanents in play. This could even just be Power Stones. Right? It's a permanent, it's not a land. Right? So you could have like 7 or 8 or whatever, and then you just... 7 mana is a lot, but you just dump like bunch of cards, both from your opponent's library and yours, onto the battlefield without paying the mana cost. Wowza. You can see why the French version is called Exaggeration. Isn't that just a little bit exaggerated? Seems a bit pretty bonkers to me. I want to try and break that ASAP. 7 mana isn't... I mean, we've cast hard, hard cast Titans of Industries plenty of times in this format. I don't see that as being too problematic. It's... That's a really, really crazy text box. Next up, Static Net. 4 mana enchantment. Colorless, 3 and a white. Sorry, colorless. I meant uncommon. 3 colorless and 1 white. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and create a tap Power Stone token. Hey. 4 mana for a borrowed time that gains you 2 life. So it's 1 more mana than borrowed time. But you get 2 life and this Power Stone. That's really not too terrible. Next up, we got another flying blue soldier. I think they're really signaling that soldiers is going to be Azorius here. Some sort of tempo deck. 3 mana, 2/3 flyer. Whenever it attacks, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. Tap 3. Wow, that's so good. I can't wait to play this card, man. Oh my god. Woohoo! Tap 3 of them, you draw a card. This is a really sweet card. I'm not going to scroll back down. There was that Azorius. He's from the main storyline. The Sky Captain guy. And you needed to like attack with 5 soldiers, and then everybody gets +1/+0 and flying. that with this, and then the other little guy that we got down here, Zephyr. Maybe the ambush paratrooper, the resolute reinforcements, like Azorius, Tempo, Weenies, Aggro, soldiers. Woo! Excited for that. Next up, we got Miriel, the Shield of Argive. 4 mana, 3/4, legendary human soldier. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. What? Whew. What? And this isn't it. There was a 2 mana white taxi card that we've already seen in the... Wow. Talia, this thing. No. They're all soldiers. Don't forget, Talia's a soldier. Death and taxes. Or just white taxes. Whenever she attacks, create X 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, where X is the number of soldiers you control. Wow. That is a card, man. That is a card and a half. That deck needed... We just played soldiers. I've put up 2 soldier decks in the last month. Boros one and a mostly mono white one. And it just went 1, 2, 3, 5. There was no 4-drop worth playing. I present Miriel, the Shield of Argive. Definitely going to see some play. Super hyped for this one. By the way, that fixed... Did we go over that one yesterday, or have I just... Yeah, we did. The Siege Veteran. Also a soldier. New Luminarch Aspirant. 3 mana fixed Luminarch Aspirant is also a soldier. Oof, soldiers are going to be good. Cannot wait to play with them. Might even be the first deck I brew up. Although I'm leaning more towards Selesnya artifacts, +1/+1 counters. We'll have to see. Of course, I'm going to do everything. And we've got a whole day during the early access event to practice. So whatever you're theory crafting, please come join the Discord community. Drop it in the chat. Let's start theory crafting. I want ideas to play on the early access event. I need ideas, please. Next up, we got the Blade Coil Serpent. A Grixis one. Ooh. X. Ooh. 6 mana, 5/4. Ooh. This is a freaking ridiculous card, okay? So you could just pay 6 and you get a 5/4, right? So why did they put the X in there? Because none of the... No. Just listen. When it enters the battlefield, for each 2 blue spent, draw a card. So you could spend 6 red, whatever, and then 2 blue, you know, on top of it, and make the 2 blue the X. You still get just a 5/4, but you get to draw a card as well. Or pay 2 black, you know, for however much of that 6 or the X cost is black, but it's every 2. You can't just pay 1 extra, you know, you can't cost this for 7 and expect that to do anything. You will be casting this for either 6 or 8 or 10, you know, because casting this for 7 will do nothing. Right? Am I getting through to you? Each opponent discards a card. Or for each double red spent to cast it, it gets +1/+0, trample and haste. Ow! What a sweet card, man. Ugh, these artifacts are getting me so hyped to play right now. Like, I've been a little bit bored right now, getting to the end of like a standard, you know, set, limited card pool. Everybody knows what the best decks are. Even after the Meatook was banned, we still kind of got the same stuff. Fresh set, lots of different archetypes, different things to do. Like, it's needed, and I, for one, cannot wait. These look amazing. And here's another one: the Cityscape Leveler, 8 mana, 8/8. Artifact creature construct trample, unearth 8. Now you cast a spell, and whenever it attacks, you destroy up to 1 non-land permanent. its controller creates a tap Power Stone token. Note it doesn't, yeah, the way it's worded is you could also destroy one of your own non-land permanents. Maybe there's something less relevant than a Power Stone that you want. Trample 8/8, Unearth 8. Why is this mythic? I guess, yeah, you reanimate it on turn 5 or something, or you get it into play with a fight rigging on turn 4, or you get it, and, you know, there's ways of cheating it into play, and then you destroy a non-land permanent, any non-land permanent, and then you just keep doing that every time it attacks, and it's got 8 trample. Yeah, I can see why it's mythic. Yeah, I can see why that's mythic, but I don't know. Maybe make the unearth cost a little cheaper than the not unearth cost. It's the same amount. They probably tried that and it was just too broken and they had to nerf it a little bit. Okay, amazing art. Another one of these freaking giant, like, expensive artifacts that I can't wait to jam. This one without any kind of color identity. It's just 8 colorless, everything colorless, colorless, colorless. Can play it in any deck. I like that. Next up, we got another spider. There seems to be one in every set. This one's a 4-mana 3/3 reach, as all spiders are. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, destroy target non-land permanent. Nice. And then when it dies, you may gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard. If you do, exile it from your graveyard. Okay. Yeah. Random, uncommon thing. Maybe in some sort of like draft or, you know, limited environment. If there's a deck that wants to put stuff in the yard, like that elf lady here, Deathbloom Ritualist, that might be perfect. I don't know. We'll have to see. Next up, we got Power Stone Engineer. 2-mana 2/1. When it dies, create a tap Power Stone token. Meh. Draft Chaff. Ooh. Another Shade. 2-mana 2/2. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. Ooh. I like that. The art's not amazing. But I always like these text boxes. You can give it +1/+1 for however many, you know, ooh, you just throw all your Power Stones into this activation cost. Give it +1/+1. The opponent doesn't block, you just... I like those types of ones where it's just 1 to give it a +1/+1. We've got that Knight that I was just talking about earlier, with the one that doesn't allow opponents to gain life. That's a 2/2, but then you have to pay 2 to give it +2/+2, which is cool, but this one's a little bit more like, I don't know, flexible. You don't always need to keep 2 mana up, you can just keep the 1. And I like those, putting the opponent into that situation. It's like, if I don't block it, he's going to dump all of his mana into it and do me a huge amount of damage. But if I do block it, he's got enough mana open that he'll dump into it anyway and kill my creature and his won't die. So all that I'm gaining is that I'm not taking any damage, but I'm losing my creature. And I can't even, you know, trade in combat. So this could actually be deceptively good. All right, we're almost at the end. Last 4 cards. We've got the Argothian Sprite. 2 mana, it's a 2/2 fairy. Another fairy in green. Argothian Sprite can't be blocked by artifact creatures. Pay 7, put 2 counters on an Draft Chaff. Keeper of the Cadence. 6 mana, 2/5. Human Wizard. Pay 3, put an artifact, instant or sorcery card from a graveyard. Okay. Yeah. Opponent's going to reanimate something, use an instant from his grave, flash something back, unearth something, whatever. You just put it on the bottom of your graveyard. At instant speed. I can see why that's uncommon, but I don't think it's going to see much play. Gurgling Anointer. 3 mana, 1/3. Phyrexian Horror with flying. Whenever you draw your second card each turn. Aha! Another card that says that. That's interesting. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. But it's 3 mana. When it dies, return another target creature card with mana value less than or equal to anointed. Aha! That's the same line of text as the body launderer guy. That's actually not terrible. That's actually not terrible. That's a sweet little uncommon. I think that's... I'm definitely going to test this out. Maybe even in Rakdos. And last but not least, we finally made it to this episode end. 1 hour in, not too bad. You gain 1 life. If you control creatures named Power Plant Worker and Tower Worker, you gain 3 life instead. Okay, so I'm more and more thinking that this is some kind of like limited thing. Because otherwise it's quite trashy. Let's give it 1 more refresh, see if there's anything. Ooh, we got ooh. 1 more mythic. This is the prototype mythic in green. A 5 mana, 5/5 golem. Rootwire Amalgam. Pay 2 mana for a 2/3. Or 5 mana for a 5/5. That's pretty decent. What does it do? You can pay for 5, sack it, create a colorless golem artifact creature token where X is 3 times Rootwire Amalgam's power. What? That's freaking cool. Turn 6. Make it 15/15 with haste. Is that right? Play it on turn 5. Turn 6, play a land. Pay 5. No, 3, 4. Yeah, pay 5. Sack it. Make a 15/15 with haste and attack. And if that doesn't kill them, there's that new Fling card that I'm so hyped on from a couple days back. This card is ridiculous. No? Where was it? This one. Ferric Blast. Sack the 15/15. Poof. Send that damage face. Draw a card. Wow. That is a sweet one for the prototypes. I like this green one. Definitely gonna go in my Artifacts Matter Selesnya deck on day 1. But that is going to be it for this episode of Spoiler Talk, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will be seeing you all a little bit later with another fresh brew. And until then, this is Lone Fox from the BrewLab, signing out. Peace, y'all.